Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at not one, but two Gainward GTX780 Ti Phantoms. Now, the Phantoms have come a long way since some of their early designs that people thought were quite loud and intrusive and stuff like that, but the design has stayed relatively the same, but they have improved things with this one a little bit, as I'll show you in a minute, with removable fans and stuff. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to bother yabbering and everything on at the beginning. We know what 780 Tis were like. If you don't know what the Phantoms look like, you're going to like them, and when I show you up close in a minute. We'll look at the bench, we'll look at the bench rig, then some benchmarks, and then I'll be back at the end, sat in this exact same position, because I'm going to film it in 5 seconds. The conclusion. But for now, let's move on. Nerd porn time! Right, yeah. Maybe you'll think it, maybe you won't. I actually really like the look of this card. And as I've already said, I should say cards. S-Linus. Anyway, S-Linus! Oh my god! The bastard gets everywhere. S-Linus. Quick, someone go and post it on one of his videos. TTI will just said S-Linus. Anyway, and I've only had one cup of coffee. Ding! Right, so the Phantom. First things first, really, is other than it's absolutely having like babies with my eyes and stuff. I really like the look of these. It's a 2.5 slot card, and if I get the blue tack off of it, because I've just been taking photos of it, you can kind of see. If you add the gap, you can see that it's not a full 3 slotter. It does mean you have to be very careful with your motherboard choices. Obviously that's 1 slot, 2 slot, 3 slot, and then if your next PCI Express slot is there, they're going to be right next door to each other practically. So you want as many slots as possible if you're planning on buying more than one of these little beasties. So yeah, but while we're here, HDMI, full-size DisplayPort and 2 DVIs. So that's that business end. 2 SLI prongs, so up to 4-way SLI if you're mental, although 4-way SLI technically isn't supported anymore. Anyway, a lot of people will go, why are the fans not blowing at the fins? Well, it's a bit of a styling thing, but it's also a feature really, because when it comes to cleaning, what you can do is you can hoover these fins directly. So you can get your old hoover. I did have it here and I was going to show you, but I've moved it and forgotten. So you can hoover this bit, and then the fans themselves actually come out. If I get my hand through my tripod, then there we go. Undooey, look. Little screw comes out. And then you give this a little bit of a tug. That's what she said. And it slides out, look. Ooh, thicker. And then the fan comes out. So again, you can clean that. And there is a little hot swap on it where it locates at the back. And there's 4 little prongs. And yeah, it comes out, and you can see the fins, you can see the heat pipes at the back. They're actually ding, better visible from back here. So what it's doing is sucking air through the fins and blowing it. And there is a large like faceplate kind of heatsink thing bolted across all of the motherboard, which helps cool the memory and the MOSFETs and stuff like that, which is technically getting battered by the fans. We've not tested them yet. I'm making this. I've just photoed these, photographed. There's the spastic word I'm looking for. I've photographed these. I've not got around to testing yet, so we're doing it in stages. So you'll, my opinions on this will probably change as we go through the video. But they've been a bit of a mixed bag in the past. So testing's going to see what we think of them. Anyway, it's a normal 3GB 780 Ti. Clocks I've already said before. We've got 2 8-pin power connectors up this end. 3 of these little fans underneath the fin area. And like I said, it's a shame you can't see this when it's in your rig. If you had an MITX rig where you've got a window right on your graphics card, I mean, why would you not want that to look at through a window? It's gorgeous. I really like it anyway, and the only way you can make that better is by bringing its twin sister to the party and they both want to play games with you. Anyway, let's get these teamed up in the rig and we'll be back shortly. Okay then, so a look at the complete test system. We've got the good old trusty Rampage 4 Extreme at the back. It's the original red one. It's the one I've had since it launched. Then we've got 32GB of memory in there. That's purely because it's 4 sticks of Corsair Vengeance Pro in there, rather than it needing 32GB, but there are 8GB sticks and they're like 16GB per 2. But I've got 4 in there because it's red, so I know the RAM is overkill, but it's 2400 megahertz. Then we have a 3960X in there. We've got a H100i cooling with SP120 quiet editions. The fans in there are now the for the front and the back are now the AF red LED 140s. The red's turned up first, that's why they're in there. I've still not made my mind up whether I would run these. If I was going to light it up with white LEDs and stuff, I might change them. And by that I mean like an LED NZXT strip or something. But anyway, AX1200i power supply, and then the red individually braided cables. We've got a 240GB GTX Neutron. That's what the benches and the OS is on. And then below it we've got a 240GB Force LS, and that's actually what Steam, Origin and Uni, whatever it's called, is on for all the games. So the games are on one solid state drive and all the benches on the other, because I did run out of room on a 240. And then obviously in SLI we have the what I have popularly become called the Phantom Twins. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the camera so that we can have a good look. I'm just going to zoom you in because these together are really, really pretty cards. I know the camera's kind of looking up, down a little bit, and what I will do is I will take you off the camera in a minute. Take you off the camera, take you off the tripod, and give you a good look. But this is going to be the kind of look that you're going to get from within your case. And I do really like it, and I mean, I really like it. Also, one thing I will say is because of the fact there is quite a lot of material and they're quite thick. They've not drooped at all. They're quite rigid in there. Yeah, I've experienced or seen no case, PCB sag or anything like that. So they've stayed quite, rigid. And these, I think the reason why I like it is because it's so symmetrical. The fact that we have got these, rectangular fan bits in there and everything. Yeah, it's really, visually, I really, really like the look of these. I'm just going to fire the system up. Initially, that fan noise is the PSU because it does spin up to 100% at start. That's just a normal feature of them. We can see those that are in there now. I'll come back again where we were. You can see the system in there, and if I was to turn this off. So yeah, that is the test rig. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the camera and then I'm going to move on to a few benchmarks and stuff to show you the performance of these beauties. Right, okay, first and foremost, temperatures. Now, I have put the case side back on, just so that we've got a normal case set up. The front is still clipped on with the dust filter. It's just the normal 750D setup here. 2 fans in the front, 1 in the back. The fan in the back is on exhaust. The H100i is sucking air from the inside and blowing it out. Normal kind of stuff, normal setup. Not fiddled with in any way. So if we come in here, what we can see is I'm going to run Valley at 2560 by 1440, which is the screen res, with the anti-aliasing on 8. Now we can see down here the GPU's 980, it's at stock, and we've got the 2 in there, SLI enabled. Over here, what we've got is I'm going to set the sensors to go to maximum, so min max, and basically this will show us how much the boost will go up from 980. GPU temperature, we'll set that to maximum. Fan speed, even now, is at 48%. Now, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to show you this. It's at 48%, so it's 150%, but they're both really quiet. this is a deceptive cooler, and you think, oh my god, they're running at 50% on idle, and you think, oh, it's going to be terribly loud. And if it was, for argument's sake, like the cooler on the 290 or the 290X, the reference ones, this would be really loud. But these fans at 50%, even though they're running at 1300 RPM, are really quiet, and they're not intrusive, and they're not loud. So this is one of the reasons why I've done it this way round. And what we're going to do is we're going to kick Valley off, and this will start up and it will loop, and then while it's looping I will bring you back and we'll have a listen to the noise of the cards. Then we'll reset and go back to the desktop, and then from the desktop you'll be able to see the fan speeds and the temps and everything like that. But I'm not going to bore you anymore. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this running now. I'm going to leave it running for a good 20-30 minutes to let those cards warm up, and then we'll see how they perform in a minute. Right then, peeps. She's been running continuously now for about 40 minutes because I forgot and I made a cup of tea. Anyway, so the two cards in there, the fan speed has definitely changed. Now, one thing you do need to remember is that this is running in a silent room with no speakers or anything, and obviously if you were playing a game with this you'd have a lot of noise going on as well. So if you can hear any noise, obviously that is the graphics cards, but as I've tried to stress, it is in a silent room, and there are two, which is another thing that we need to remember. Also, something that we need to remember is the bottom card is obviously going to heat up and chuck air out, and then when the top card sucks its air in, it's not only going to be bringing in warm air, but it's also going to be getting affected by the PCB of the bottom card. So the lower card is going to be slightly cooler, but the top card will warm up significantly. And I have noticed quite a large increase in temperatures from one card to two cards, but that's also completely normal. So what we're going to do is we're just going to spin back round to the screen. There we go, keep still, Tom. So I'm going to stand by the rig quickly. Now, you've obviously not got a brilliant way to kind of compare, really. And obviously that's the entire rig noise, not just... So we can see down the sides that we've boosted up from 980 megahertz up to 1110. Now this is stock, so from stock at just under a gig, it's now gone over 1.1, so you've got like 120, 130 megahertz boost there. Memory will stay the same. Maximum GPU temperature, because we've got it to store it, has been 84. Fan speed has gone up to 96. Now again, you need to remember that it was only at 50%. It was at 50%, which already seems quite high at stock, but it's just because the fans are ridiculously quiet at stock. So that's gone up to that. The fan speed went up to 2,719 RPM. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click from this one, and we're going to go over to, now this is how it stands at the minute. The temperatures have now dropped down to 60 degrees. The fan speed is going down, 75. It was 74 when I first clicked on it. Fan speed RPM is now down to 2,000, and you can see these graphs dropping off as they do. Now with dual cards, actually, that's what I should have done. So I'll say again, you can see over here, 1110, 1749, max was 84, max was 96%, max was 2,719. Now we're down below 2,000. Fan speed is working its way down, it's now at 71%, and at the moment the GPU temperatures are 50 degrees and they'll go down. But like I said, we need to remember that there's two in here. And the strange thing is what I would say is, noise wise, two of these together like this is probably the same as a standard cooler on a single 290 or 290X. So like I said, even though the fan speed on this has gone up to 96%, two of them are about as loud as one 290. So that's the type of kind of ballpark figure that you want to kind of keep in mind there. I have to admit, it was louder than I was expecting, but I've not tested dual cards for quite a while. and I am a proper silence freak. But the thing that I wasn't really prepared for was the fact that the fan speed, there's not a huge variation between the, you know, it always seems to run relatively high even though you can't hear it. It's just something that you have to adjust to, and I'm obviously drawing attention to it because I know there are going to be people out there that are going to think 50% fan speed is the same on all graphics cards, and it's not. These are probably as loud as some graphics cards are at 20% running with their fans at 50%. So it's just the fact that they, you know, they don't seem to spin up very much, or rather they look, you know, the percentage is quite high initially already. It's strange, they just don't seem to go down lower than that. You'd think there'd be a wider fan curve, but apparently there's not. So anyway, that's our temperatures. 84 degrees, obviously that's a good kind of NVIDIA temp when you think about it. Fan speed, again, 96%. Again, you're going to have to make your own mind up. I think it looks like it's really high, but it's just because we're used to fans going up to about 70%. But one thing I will say is if the fans on another card had been about 70%, they probably would still have been at that RPM and still given us those temps. So it just means that these fans don't spin up as high, maybe, as some of the others. But anyway, I don't want to confuse your little brains anymore. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up and show you a couple of benchmarks now, because we've not done those for a little while. Okay then peeps, so if we go into the options, we're on Tomb Raider, graphics. 2560 by 1440, pretty much everything is turned on. The only thing that we've done is we've turned the hair quality to normal rather than the Tress FX, and we've turned the tessellation off just because of the issues with the game and some of the NVIDIA drivers at the moment. It is a, you know, they're kind of arguing whose fault it is at the minute. It's got worse, so I don't know. But anyway, so we'll start the benchmark. Up in the top right hand corner we have got the frames per second running on fraps. And it, to be fair, it absolutely rapes this. And the resolution is obviously 2560 by 1440, so properly maxed out, 200 frames per second. More than you'll ever need for the game, and it's, yeah, it's just nuts. I do really like this screen though. Such a lovely monitor. The reason why we're recording it with the camera rather than just using fraps to do it, so that you get a proper representation of what the frames per second are. If we were to record with fraps, then the frames per second would drop and I'd have to put an overlay on to tell you what they would have been without it. But anyway, as we can see, at an average frames per second of 200.4. Max frames per second of 229.6 and a minimum frames per second of 165.4. So absolutely decimated it. What we'll do now is we're going to move on to another one. Right then peeps, moving on to sleeping dogs. We go down options, down to display. Comes up with our settings there. Now we've got it set at 2560 by 1440. We press Q for advanced, and we've got everything else there turned on to high or maximum as much as we possibly can do. And then we press Q again for benchmark mode. Again, we have fraps running in the top right hand corner of the screen, so that you can get a visual representation as it runs through. But it will give us a min, max and average and everything, and all the settings that we use at the end. Again, this is another game that it does look really nice, but it's, again, it's a testament to the monitor, but also the fact that we're running it in 2560 by 1440 does look so nice. A lot of people ask me why I don't run audio when I do things like this, and to be fair, when we run the benchmarks we don't connect the audio up, because you hear the same thing time and time and time again. And it's just become a habit to set the speakers up with the amp and everything, because we've got all separate stuff for when we have used it in the past. It's just such a pain in the bum. I'd rather bore you with my own voice than spend an extra 15 minutes setting all the speakers up. Maybe if I ever get my bum in gear and have a proper recording test station for stuff like this, it may change. Or if I get some really easy speakers I can use, that'd be a better idea. Anyway, I love the dark background and the city sort of colours on this game. Well, benchmark anyway. FPS down to 60, 59, 58 on this section, 57, 56. That wasn't a stutter, that's actually part of the benchmark, by the way. So, benchmark complete. Average frames per second is 90.4. I should move you over, I'll just spin you around that way a bit. There we go. 90.4, maximum 122.6, minimum frame per second of 52.2. Then you can see the rest of the settings that we've got turned on. The only thing that we've really disabled is VSync, and that's so it obviously goes above 60, because that's what we need for a benchmark. So that's that. So that one done. Don't forget, you can click in the bottom left hand corner of the screen and you can go and see all of these results compared with all the other graphics cards. In the future, all of the other graphics cards that we've tested. So, but we're going to move on to another quick benchmark that you can sit and watch here now. Okay then peeps, so Hitman Absolution. Options. 2560 by 1440, all the type of stuff that you used to before. VSync is disabled. Everything there is on ultra, completely maxed out, done as much as we possibly can with it. All we need to do now is hit benchmark. I'll zoom the screen out so you can see it. I really need to get it worked out why my camera always tilts. It's the old tripod, bless it, was me mum's. So 60, 56 frames a second there. This is another stressful one. Once you turn the resolution up on this, it can become quite the resource hog. It does say in very small font down at the bottom the min, max and average frames per second as it's going along, and it does change as it goes through the test, but it's very difficult to make the camera be able to see that so you can without zooming right in on it. It will give us a readout at the end though. It's just coming to the end now. The camera will start to drop down. There we go. Right, so I'll zoom you in, even though the mouse icon's in the way. Minimum 54, maximum 83.6, average 65.83. Again, don't forget that was maxed out in quite a high resolution there. And what I am going to do now is I'm just going to show you a couple of glory benchmark shots. Right then boys and girls, so just a quick benchmark to show you, and we're using 3D Mark Firestrike Extreme. Now obviously this is probably one of the most demanding benchmarks around at the moment. It's still a relatively good example to show you as well, because on the left 8011, that is 2 GTX Titans, and I'm just going to kind of zoom you in just so that you can see. And we count there, our tripod, 2 GTX Titans, and then we've got 8011. And then if we slide over, we can see that we've got 2 GTX 780 ties, and it gets 9,901. So there's an 1,800 point difference between 2 Titans and 2 780 ties. So a ginormous difference in this benchmark. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop the camera quickly, and I'm going to show you one more quickly before the conclusion. So moving swiftly on to 3D Mark Vantage X. Now this is a pretty good one because you've got the X score at the top, which is what looks like it's in brackets, but then underneath you can see the GPU score and the CPU score. Now the CPU score you can actually see on the Titan one, which is on the left still. It was actually slightly higher. Same CPU and everything we use though. But the point to make here really is that we've got the X scores. There's a 7,000 point difference, but if you follow that down underneath, you can actually see the that big boost in the top score is because of the GPU score that's different. Two Titans scored 43,266. Two 780 Tis scored 50,175. Now a 50k score in 3D Mark Vantage X is absolutely fucking insane and tops our graphs and even smashes two 690s out the water. But if you want to see any more benchmarks and graphs and everything like that, don't forget to click the review link down the bottom left hand side of the screen. Go and have a look at all the graphs and comparisons in the OC 3D website. But for now, it's time for you to see my ugly face again. So let's move on and get this wrapped up in the conclusion. Right then peeps, congratulations if you made it from the start to the conclusion without moving. I did, because it was only about 10 seconds ago I filmed the introduction. All kind of bonkers and mad, but anyway, let's have a look. So, putting my remote down, I need to make sure it's the right way up when I pick it up. We'll start with the awards, and then I will talk about the rest as we go through. Now, for a single card, we gave it the Gold Award, and we gave it the Innovation Award. But if we were talking about two cards together as they are there now, we would give the pair the Performance Award. So it's all very, very confusing really. And essentially, the Performance Award knockdown was just because, let's face it, if you're going to be buying a pair of these, you're going to be looking at spending somewhere between £1,100 and £1,200. So it's a lot of money to spank out on a pair of graphics cards. But let's face it, if you've looked at any of the graphs on OC3D, you will see that the performance is there to back it up. So these have pretty much topped all of our graphs. And we're talking about these, a pair of these have beat things like two 690s. Now, the thing with 690s they were great for benchmarking. But when it came to games and stuff, you ran into, various problems with, sometimes the games didn't know how to utilise 4 graphics cards. Sometimes the drivers didn't just, like delivering all the information. And there was always a bit of playing around with it. And that's going to be the same whether you're running 2 dual core cards or 4 single core cards, which is one of the reasons why we generally say the sweet spot when you're looking at multi-cores is a pair of individuals. You also run into less overclocking issues and heat problems and all that kind of stuff as well. So 2 780 Tis, where these, it doesn't matter what you say, the 780 Ti is the fastest single core car on the planet. Doesn't matter about the 290X. Yes, it's significantly cheaper, but it ain't as quick as this. So we're not going to have any arguments. Performance, that's what we're talking about. It's all fucking awesome. So sticking a pair in together, we were always going to get some bonkers numbers, but the difference, it completely puts 2 780s or 2 Titans to bed. To be fair, 2 780s in a lot of benchmarks puts 2 Titans to bed, but this absolutely takes another leap forward. So it was, the performance is there, it's bonkers. When you run a single one of these cards, it's pretty quiet. As I said when I was doing the temperature testing, it does look like the fans are going crazy fast, but they don't make that much noise, and the percentage of the fan running, that again is deceptive because it looks like it's running really, really quick. But they don't make that much noise. The only time that you really start to notice the cards is when you're running 2. But again, to put things into context, 2 of these running, with what they say is 90% fan speed, makes less noise than a single a single 290X once it's been running the same tests for the same amount of time. So, when you kind of do balance those points out, but then again, we all know that the standard AMD card is an easy pick to, it's going to be better than that, because it's not really that much harder. But the point I was trying to make is 2 of these is still quieter than one of those. But it is two of these together has been probably, forgetting the AMD stuff, some of the loudest things that I've heard in a while. But again, something else that we do need to keep in mind is when I test these things like this, I test them in what is essentially a silent room. So I can properly tune into the noise levels on things like this. But for those of you out there that manually set your fan speeds, or have got headphones on or speakers on playing games and stuff, you're not going to hear it. I was essentially sat here with a benchmark on loop, which is the benchmark that I use to make my graphics cards hot anyway, because I can just leave it and it simulates games being played, because there's high bits and there's low bits, and I can leave it looping for like as long as I like, and it really does warm things up. It helps equalise the temperatures in the case, everything all gets nice and warm, the room warms up, and I can just leave it going. But like I said, whereas you would have lots of or going on in the background, I've got it in a silent room, so I can actually hear into this kind of thing. And it has been a while since I've done any SLI or crossfire testing as well, so it's been a bit of a shock to actually have fan noise about that's not been because of a shit CPU cooler or an AMD going, oh my god, I can't cope with all this heat. But anyway, so it was just because we had two cards, but I noticed it. So you can make of that as you will, because I know I'm not explaining things very well today, but hopefully you'll get the point there. The cooler design itself, I really, really like. You can't get away from that industrial kind of look with the screws on the side, and it's all kind of very symmetrical, and my eyes love it. I really, really like it. Also, with the thicker cooler design, I can't help but notice there is zero lag or sag or whatever you want to call it on those cards. They're perfectly straight in those slots. And to be fair, that in itself is something worth a thumbs up, because how many other cards have you seen in this case recently that have started to droop off? And these, they just haven't. So even though there's a lot of weight there, because they are heavy cards, there's no droop, and it's all nice and kind of symmetrical and lovely. So that again is something that's worth pointing out. Also, something that I can't stress enough is the design of these is going to make your life easier when it comes to cleaning, because if you take the cards out to clean them, you hoover the fan bits on the top, the fin bits rather, and that's going to get rid of that dust. Now, what you need to think about is generally that would have been under the fans on another card, so you probably would have had to have taken it all apart or used an air duster or whatever. And then to get your fans, which are probably going to pick up some dust as well, you can unscrew those and you can hoover those out. The rest, I mean, if you want to use an air duster and stuff, then fine, but you're going to know that you've done a really good clean on these by being able to... I always end up burping in the videos. I think it's because I talk, because I ate hours ago. So you can, yeah, it's going to make your life a lot easier for cleaning. I will say though, that it does seem a shame that you can't see those fins, because I really like that kind of simple, minimalistic, you can just see fins design on the bottom. And if you were running an ITX case of one of these, make sure that you're going to have enough room that's got a window or something on the side. I can't help but think that would end up looking epic. So, nice bench rig. It all does just work in there. The performance is there. The fan speed is deceptive, and by that we've covered that enough. The fan speed is deceptive. We did notice a temperature increase and fan speed increase when you stick the second card in, but let's face it, I'd be surprised if it didn't. We've technically got another card in there dumping heat in, and this card was going to have been pulling hot air off the back of the other card. So again, it's not surprising the temperatures and the fan speeds went up. I'm not surprised by that at all. If you think that's wrong, then you really don't understand matters. And we have got a good gap between these two as well. This is an ample gap, considering this is a 2.5 slot card, so it's a lovely gap. If these were just dual slot cards, then you'd have even more cooling between the two. The Rampage 4 is a pretty good board layout wise. Actually, the Rampage 4 is as good as you're going to get for dual card or, you know, dual GPU setups like that, because especially when you're talking air cooling, because of the gap between. If we'd had less room, then I would hazard a guess that these would have been running at 100%, and we probably would have put about 5 or 8 degrees temperature on them as well, just because they wouldn't have been able to, well, at least the top one wouldn't have been able to have breathed properly. So really, I'm confusing myself now with what I've said and I haven't said. So what I'm going to leave it at is they look the absolute gonads. The price, yes, they're expensive, but they're in line with, you know, all of the other GTX 780 Tis out there. I know more expensive ones than these out there that don't look anywhere near as nice and sag and, you know, will be harder to clean. So really, it's a brilliant, brilliant card, thoroughly deserving of that gold. The Innovation Award is for those fans, really, more than anything. And like I said, Performance Award for the SLI, thoroughly deserved. It's not very often that we end up giving so many awards, but we've kind of staggered it because we've obviously done an SLI, but we wanted to review it as an individual card as well, which is why they've ended up with those 2 stages in the conclusion. But for now, at least, this is Tiny Tom Logan with the Gainward GTX 780 Ti Phantom Edition that we've also got in SLI. Anyway, this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out. Ding! And that's for the guy that said I didn't do the ding in the power supply video.